Hey guys, welcome back to a new video here on the channel. Today I'm going to be doing my personal rankings of the live action TMNT costumes, but I've enlisted the help of a very awesome friend. Stay tuned. So it's pretty safe to say that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are one of the most recognizable and famous IPs in pop culture history. Now, we see them obviously start out with the animation from the 80s. We've even seen them in CGI form. But today, I'm going to be doing my personal rankings from worst to best of the live action costumes, whether it be from the films and also at one point a stage tour. But like I said at the beginning of this video, I've enlisted the help of a very dear friend of mine who is also here on YouTube. That's right, Minty of Minty Comedic Arts.
Hey Chris, it's Minty here. Thank you for having me on board. You are a pretty cool dude.
I totally paid him to say that.
Right, so live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or rather live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles costumes.
So yeah, Minty and I have 6 live action costume iterations that we're going to be ranking from worst to best. With that being said, let's start off with our worst. For me, coming in at number 6 is the We Wish You a Turtle Christmas costumes from 1994. Now, there is Forgotten Media, and then there is We Wish You a Turtles Christmas. We Wish You a Turtles Christmas is a 25-minute live-action Christmas special released direct-to-video back in 1994. And with good cause. The plot is, it's Christmas Eve and the Ninja Turtles have accidentally forgotten to get Splinter a gift. What a bunch of fuckwits. The Turtles argue who was supposed to get the gift. Unfortunately, the stores are closing, so they don't have much time. Like, it just sounds like a groundbreaking piece of story. But this is one of those things where it's so forgotten. When you find it, when it surfaces in your zeitgeist, it is incredible. It's one of those things where get your mates together, get some drinks, get some pizza, and just roast the absolute shit out of it. But we're here to talk about the nightmare fuel-induced costumes from that special. Now, I get it. Budget can be a very big thing. It can make or break how the costumes are going to look. I personally don't know what the budget was for this particular special, but just take a look at these. It just looks like nightmare fuel. My God, look at the smiles on them. It's kind of just unnerving in a way. Like if you had Tiny Tims tiptoe through the tulips while you watch these guys, it makes it all the more worse. Tiptoe through the window, by the window. And there's not much else to say about it. Like their facial movements are next to nothing. It will be interesting to see what the servos, the animatronics, the mechanisms were inside those heads. It just looks very bare basic. Again, at the end of the day, budget can make or break how the costumes are going to look. I just figured costuming technology had probably evolved a couple of years since the 1990 film, but if you don't have the scratch for it, it's probably not going to look the greatest. With that being said, Minty, what's your number 6, buddy?
You've got that TV series, The Next Mutation. I saw a couple of episodes of this at the time when it was first being broadcast on TV, and I found it to be really Power Rangers-ish, which makes sense as we all now know that it was made by the same team who made the Power Rangers. And I thought for a TV budget that's costumes looked fine. I liked how they changed them up a bit, and I believe that Leonardo and Donatello have bandanas that cover the whole top part of their heads, and I thought it was interesting having a 5th turtle. Maybe it wasn't executed the best way, but you know, it's a thing, it happened. Yeah, once again, as far as a TV show goes, with working with a TV budget, I think they're fine. I also appreciate how with that show, they somewhat aged the turtles. They're no longer teenagers, but I'm guessing young adults, hence the fact that the teenage aspect has been removed from the title. So I've got to give the show credit for that.
Alright, number 5 for me are the Coming Out of Their Shells tour costumes. This was a special and also a tour done in 1990, the same year that we also got these beautiful looking costumes. Now, it's essentially just cashing in on Turtle Mania at the time. Like, turtles were everywhere, and even though I was only 2 years old at the time, or just about to hit 2 years old, a few years later when I saw it all explode, and it was still exploding for that matter in the early 90s with turtle fandom, it was incredible. And they figured they'd cash in with a Coming Out of Their Shells tour that included an actual stage show tour. We had a video, we had a making of video, and essentially it just seems like a hybrid of the Secret of the Ooze and the TMNT 3 costumes put together with some glam rock costume accessories on top of it. Again, it's all in the eyes and all in the smile for me. It's just a nightmare fuel, very unnerving, and again, let's add a bit of Tiny Tim to this footage. Tiptoe through the window. Now, I do see a bit of continuity carried over from the 1990 film, or just the overall design with the spots and a bit more weathering and a bit more detail as opposed to the We Wish You a Turtles Christmas costumes. And an honorable mention to just how off-putting the Splinter puppet is. Like, it's just so bare basic from what we got in the same year, who was performed by Kevin Clash, who also voiced Elmo. Alright, Mint Dog, what's your number 5?
And of course that Ninja Turtles Christmas special where they sing reggae and opera because sure, why not? Yeah, once again, the costumes do look a bit cheap and nasty and they've got these goofy looks on their faces. I said the Ninja Turtles costumes in part 3 looks like what you get if you get the Turtles off Wish. This is like the bottom of the barrel. This is like what happens when you get the Ninja Turtles from some guy down a dark alley. No, this is really like, yeah, it's a TV budget, what are you gonna do?
Coming in at number 4 for me, and this was hard, I was swapping back and forth between 4 and 3 with their placement, is actually going to be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 costumes from the 1993 film. So this was a box office bomb, especially after Secret of the Ooze, which was somewhat successful. Now trying to really cash in on the franchise with the live action Turtles, and this one just completely missed the mark. The Turtles go back to feudal Japan. There is no mention or sighting of Shredder, Bebop, Rocksteady, Tokka, Raza, the Foot. Casey Jones is back, but he is so wasted in this, especially when you have such an awesome actor like Elias Koteas playing Casey Jones. He is just so wasted and just left on the sidelines, essentially, much like his hockey career in the film. Now, the costumes for TMNT 3 weren't actually built by the Jim Henson Company. They bowed out, they didn't want to do them anymore, so the costumes now were handled by the All Effects Company. Now, don't get me wrong, animatronics are very hard to do. And there is a video on YouTube of one of the puppeteers demonstrating the software and everything that goes into puppeteering one of the turtles, in this case Donnie. You can see all the movements, and again, it's hard to do, but it just seems like a step back from Secret of the Ooze and TMNT 1990. And to me, they just look like frogs. They don't look like turtles to me, they just look like frogs with turtle shells, and it's just really off-putting, and they all kind of look the same. You can't really differentiate them unless you look at their bandanas. That's the only real thing that I can separate them with. They just have that weird 1,000-yard stare in their eyes. Don't get me wrong, if NECA came out, I do know they're doing the samurai versions, but if NECA come out and say we're actually just going to do the basic versions of these turtles, I'm going to buy them. I'm a completionist. I want the 1990, Secret of the Ooze, and the TMNT 3 figures all in a lineup, because that is a part of my childhood. But looking back on it now, with retrospect and also adult goggles, it is very off-putting. And it just seems like a massive step back considering how far they've come. But I also understand at the end of the day, it is a brand new company handling the animatronics and the costumes. All right, M. Dizzle, what's your number 4?
Well, when I was a kid, I was never even really aware of the Ninja Turtles coming out of their shell concerts. I don't even think that happened in my neck of the woods. So I'm not too familiar with them. Yeah, the turtle costumes do look a bit cheap and nasty, and it is kind of really dated how they've tried to make them look like rock stars. But like, I get it, you can't have top quality turtle costumes while also having performers jump and run around on the stage with instruments and guitars basically being rock stars. I cannot stress enough the idea of the Turtles being rock stars going on tours is really interesting.
Alright, this is probably very controversial and a hot take. My number 3 are the TMNT, the Next Mutation costumes from the Saban TV show, or in this case, the Power Rangers version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I adored this series when I was a kid. I was hooked. I didn't realize or give a shit how cheesy it was at the time. Looking back on it, it's not the greatest, but one thing that always stood out to me was the design of the turtles and making them their own with each of their personalities showcased in their costumes. Also, the differences with the bandanas, I really love them. The only thing is, I wish there was a bit more weathering going on. They are just way too clean. In terms of the animatronics, it's not bad, especially for a TV budget. Like, it's chalk and cheese when you compare the Next Mutation to We Wish You a Turtle Christmas. There is just like next to no movement with those heads. But with the next mutation, you can tell that they gave a damn, especially when it came to the stunt crew. The stunt crew maneuvers so well in these costumes, and there are a lot of costumes made. Some are a little worse for wear these days, but that's totally understandable. Like when you're playing a Ninja Turtle, you're going to expect to tear a foam latex piece here or there that has to be replaced. But going back to the design, I love how different the bandanas are, the belts as well, the different strappings and the tape and all that stuff. Again, I just would like a hint of realism there with the weathering and stuff like that. Maybe just really gnarly up the belts, much like 1990 and 1991's live action films. Just really have that sense of realism there. And the cool thing is, they also incorporated the new sewer/abandoned subway that they used in TMNT 2 and also the third film in this Saban series. Now, like I said, I call this the Power Ranger series because Chaim Saban, who created and owned the Power Rangers, also gained the rights to TMNT and thought it would be good to make a series. And at one point, the Turtles and the Power Rangers do team up in a special episode, and it was just bound to happen. I'm still waiting on a live-action TMNT and Batman film, but that's just me. Again, bit of a hot take, but I just appreciate the different design and breaking up the monotony of having the Turtles look the same, if that makes sense. All right, Minty, what's your number 3, my dude?
Then we get to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. Oh dear. There definitely was a drop in quality this time round, wasn't there? The Turtles look weird. They look really plasticky, and their faces look strange, and their eyes and their mouths look weird. They're constantly pulling these strange expressions. They're covered in these weird spots. Like, what's going on? This is like what happens when you get the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles costumes from the first movie from Wish. It's like that meme where you've got a kid who says, "Mum, can we get some Ninja Turtles?" And they're like, "We've already got Ninja Turtles at home, and these are the Ninja Turtles that you have at home." The popular rumor is that Jim Henson's Creature Workshop was not used for Ninja Turtles 3 for sort of cost-cutting reasons, you know, to keep the budget down a little bit. But sadly, I think you get what you pay for, and if you use the services of Jim Henson, you're going to get Ninja Turtles. But if you want to save money and get someone else, you get, well, that.
Coming in at number 2, and it's a no-brainer, it's the TMNT Secret of the Ooze costumes built by the Jim Henson Creature Shop. So this was such a quick turnaround in comparison to when the first film came out. Like, the first film was an absolute hit, and I will touch on that because it's pretty obvious who my number 1 is gonna be. But again, these costumes were handled by the Jim Henson Company. They did an incredible job. The only thing is, they just taken a step back in terms of the aesthetic. To me, the Turtles in Secret of the Ooze appear a bit more childlike and a bit more babyish. The reason was, the parents who had seen the 1990 film complained that it was too dark, too violent, the Turtles looked too gruff. So they slightly altered the features of each of the Turtles, making them appear a bit more baby. And the shit thing is, they hardly next to don't even use their weapons in the film. I mean, Leo uses his katanas, but that's to throw them into the roof and hang from them. Donatello uses a wiffle ball bat, Mikey's using sausages from a deli, Raph uses a car tire. But for the most part, the aesthetic is somewhat still there, the detail is still there, the craftsmanship, the quality, it's all still there. There definitely just is a difference going on in the faces and just appearing a bit more childlike and not as gruff. I mean, if you are going from the original source material, the Turtles are gonna look rough and a bit different. Minty, what's your number 2, mate?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, is the last, or at least one of the last movies that Jim Henson himself personally worked on, and the movie is dedicated to him. And while we're talking about the Ninja Turtle costumes, can I also just take a moment to talk about how great Splinter looks, and who I believe was entirely a puppet. And wow, the emotion and expressions that come from that puppet. Like in the first movie, there's a scene where he's tied up and locked up in the Shredder's base, where it looks like he's being sort of beaten and battered by Shredder and the foot soldiers. And there's that one shot where he sort of looks up and his eyes look sad and have a tragedy about them. When I was a kid, I think this even left me blubbering. And it's amazing that a puppet and costume special effects can do that. It's definitely a lost craft that never happens anymore. Once again, thanks to CGI.
And coming in at number 1, and it's a no-brainer, the live-action Jim Henson costumes from the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film. This, to me, is specialty costuming and animatronics done right, and that still stand the test of time. you totally forget that they are 4 blokes in foam latex turtle suits. All these incredible stunts that were maneuvered in these suits, especially that battle at the end with the Shredder, is so brutally badass. I love it. Now, in terms of the design, you can definitely tell that the sculptors put in the time, the care, the effort to make sure that each turtle had their personality. Mikey, who has the most childlike appearance. We have Leo, who is the leader, who looks the most handsome. We have Donnie, who has an inquisitive look on his face and always curious. And then we have Raph, gruff, brute, and also scars all over him. The turtles sweat in the film. The turtles bleed in the film. I love it. And at that time, Jim Henson said these were the most advanced costumes him and his crew had ever worked on. Unfortunately, this was Jim Henson's last production before his untimely passing, and the second film is actually dedicated to him. But to me, these still stand the test of time, and that says a lot compared to what we've seen these days with modern film, modern animatronics, and modern costuming technology. Christ, can you imagine what they could do now if they brought back a live-action iteration of the Turtles with live-action costumes and a blending of CGI as well? Like digital cleanup. I'm not talking overall CGI, just elements here and there. And I'm actually going to be doing a video on some cancelled TMNT films, which includes a project exactly like that. Alright, Minty, it's pretty obvious what your number 1 is, but let's hear it.
Well, my favourite is without a doubt the Ninja Turtles as they appear in the very first live-action 1990 movie. To me, they look superb. You look at it and you just think to yourself, these are the Ninja Turtles if the Ninja Turtles were in real life. It literally looks like the Turtles have exploded out of the cartoon and jumped into live action format on film, and they look great and they look superb. And what I also love is that they have used physical costumes. This isn't some CGI monstrosity that someone's put together on a computer. They are physically there and they look great and they look terrific. Interestingly, the great Muppet Man himself, Jim Henson, worked on these costumes. And there's even pictures of him hanging out on the set with the Ninja Turtles. Although unfortunately, he wasn't too happy with the final film. I believe he said something to the effect of he thought the movie was too violent and too scary for children. Which I find interesting, as he directed The Dark Crystal, a movie to which for me as a kid was really frightening. But to me, my true love for live action Ninja Turtles will always be that first movie. Okay, the first 2 movies. Anyway, Chris, thanks for having me on board and allowing me to just waffle on about my love of live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's been a lot of fun and turtle power.
And there you have it, guys. Those are my personal rankings of the live action TMNT costumes. Minty, you're an absolute sweetheart. If you haven't checked out Minty's channel, I will leave the link down below. He does some awesome top 10 videos, things you didn't know videos, just really informative and just fun. Guys, with that being said, drop a comment below. Let me know your rankings of the live action TMNT costumes and what would you change or do differently to certain costumes. Again, I know my next mutation ranking was a bit of a hot take, but I just feel with a bit more weathering and dirtying them up, could have been an absolute winner. Love you guts, and I'll catch you in the next one.